What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, bringing you, as promised, my full Philadelphia Eagles upcoming season preview and predictions. So we did touch briefly on the Philadelphia Eagles while we were going through the entirety of the NFC East. If you haven't checked that out, go do so right now. Just through the lovely search function. But yeah, as today we're going to be going through everything for the Philadelphia Eagles. Usually we break this into multiple videos, but I ain't got that amount of time. I'm not going to bother you guys with, just spamming the crap out of your sub boxes. So we're going to do it all here. Final 53-man prediction, records, season awards, stat predictions for both guys on the roster as well as rookies. But first of all, can we just talk about the thumbnail? Look at how absolutely fire that thumbnail is. I have entirely new thumbnails all ready to go for Madden 18. I got a lovely graphic work done by Ruby Graphics. Go check out the work there. But yeah, we're coming in heavy for Madden 18. This is just a little sneak peek at the lovely, massive upgrades at thumbnails. Without further ado, not talk about thumbnails. It's time to talk about my beautiful Philadelphia Eagles. I know majority of people that watch my video are Philadelphia Eagle fans. If you're not an Eagle fan, maybe you get a little bit of an insight towards them. But we're going to start here. First and foremost, with the final 53-man roster breakdown. I figure, what easier way to showcase how I think things are going to work out than just jumping right in with my custom rosters in Madden 17 and doing it like that. So first, we're starting at the quarterback spot. Carson Wentz, obviously. Wentz the god. He's the future of this goddamn team. And I think they brought in Beach Foles to be the backup, and I think that's a tremendous backup. He's a guy with starter experience. We never forget 27-2. Never forget. Which kind of leaves Matt McGloin, who's bounced around. He is from Penn State, so he's, same state kid, but he's not going to make this final roster. And he's not, I think he's too old to make practice squad, so I only believe we will be fielding 2 quarterbacks for our roster. At the running back spot, we have a plethora of running backs. Clearly, Blunt and Sproles are the first 2 automatic locks. Blunt is going to be our power back. I mean, how long? It's been since we had Deuce Staley that we had a legit power back. And then Darren Sproles, who did say this was going to be his final year. I don't know if maybe if things go well, he'll come back for another year. But I think we relish this while he's still wearing an Eagles jersey. He'll be back. Ryan Matthews is as good as gone. We're not having Ryan Matthews. We've got to free up that cap space. Wendell Smallwood is going to make the roster. I think he did just enough last season to warrant not throwing him on the practice squad. But durability concerns are there. And, is he ever going to really amount to be... our 3-down runner when all said and done once. I mean, because Blunt and Sproles are no spring chickens. They are definitely on the downside of their careers. I still think they give another opportunity. And I have Donnell Pumphrey making the last spot. They have said they've used him at slot wide receiver. They're trying him in various formations. And obviously, you're going to want him to be kind of an understudy to Darren Sproles, as that's really what he's going to try to reenact within our offense. Corey Clement, very intriguing. Lots of people have got excited about him. I do not think he's ain't gonna really be. Maybe has a chance to get practice squad. I do have some practice squad predictions, and he does not make my base practice squad. I can tell you that now. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, there is our running back stable, and that is pretty decent. Intriguing. It's intriguing. We have no fullback on the roster. So looking at the wide receiver spot, ALSHON Jeffrey coming in on the 1-year deal. My favorite, in my biased and even unbiased opinion, contract that was signed during the free agency period. Absolute must. Not very concerned, very cautious that he will be healthy for all 16 games. He struggled to stay healthy, and I say that not as just hearing from a Bears fan. I've had ALSHON Jeffrey on my fantasy team 2 of the last 2 seasons. At every game, he's questionable. He never has like a clean bill of health. Hopefully that changes, and I think he'll have a really good year in Philly, but I have to remain to see. Jordan Matthews, finally, with Jordan Matthews, he's been one of those guys that's looked pretty decent in a really terrible Philadelphia Eagle wide receiver core. He does have some lapse in judgment, but he's like one of those things where you could tell he's giving 100% effort, which in my opinion, I know this is a differing opinion among Eagle fans, but he does, I'm going to say, unlike maybe another guy we're going to talk about, when he does make a bad play, he usually will still make 2 good plays for every bad play, which is definitely not a great thing. But on top of that, the effort is always there. And I think that gives him a pass in my book. Certainly, you could be overly critical and hard on him when he does fuck up. But the fact that he has such passion for Philadelphia, for this franchise, for this city, and now, the big tag on with Matthews is what's he going to look like once we get another wide receiver 1. His last real big year was when we had Jordan, was it D-Jax or was it Macklin? Or both. and he was able to thrive in the slot. Now we have ALSHON. There's going to be room for him to make plays. It's going to be a big year for him to take the next step. Torrey Smith obviously going to make the roster. Hopefully we get the Torrey Smith that was with the Baltimore Ravens and not the Torrey Smith that was with the San Francisco 49ers. Nelson Agholor is going to make the roster because, look, this is kind of a glimpse into his contract. By releasing him, we would eat $3 million in cap. It's not the exact numbers, but that's the kind of scenario. You really want to take that big of a hit. All reports that he's been pretty damn good and looked impressive out of training camp. I don't know, maybe ALSHON Jeffrey's got in his head. Maybe the fact that he's not going to have pressure to start, and now, like what I said, that's exactly what I fucking said at the end of the season. Get in some wide receivers so that Agholor doesn't go from, oh man, I keep dropping stuff, and I have to keep playing because there's no one else here. Now, that pressure, the mental thing with Agholor, has always been his problem. Now that's off him because now it's for him to make plays to try to get minutes versus trying to defend his minutes. You know, that's a different mindset to approach in the season. I personally don't think he's going to be anything special, but I think he might do enough this year to warrant saying, hey, man, maybe this is going to be an absolute slow burn with the kid, but she showed improvements here in the 2017-2018 season and is worth a roster spot next year, but I don't think he's going to have anything crazy or like the hype that's building up right now because of how he's looked in the offseason. DGB, he's already gone. You know, we're just because it feels so good to do it again, DGB is gone. Makes no sense. Like one of the greatest high school recruits ever at the wide receiver position just doesn't give a shit. We have Shelton Gibson, who was a wide receiver that I mocked to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he'd be a good fit. However, reports say that he has not been great whatsoever in training camp. So for Gibson, because I guess it won't let me do it. That's kind of stupid. He's gonna go on the he's practice squad eligible. I just won't let me make it. Shelton Gibson is gonna land on the practice squad and hopefully have a 2018-2019 campaign that will be memorable. Matt Collins on the other way. He has actually, you know, I kind of shit on this pick when we drafted him, but all reports is that he has looked electrifying in training camp and one of the big standouts, maybe more so than the likes of Nelson Agholor not dropping the ball. So I think Matt Collins does make the final 53 as our last wide receiver, our second to last wide receiver, sorry, and he is really good on special teams, as that was one of the big bonuses when we drafted him. I have Marcus Johnson. This is the guy. This is Paul Turner of this year, who I think will make the final roster. All reports say he has been outstanding, simply outstanding. Maybe the guy at any position on this Eagles team that has really impressed everybody, and he's definitely the dark horse. And a lot of people, you look around the internet, blogs, videos, all that stuff, posts, just internet, social media. He is the dark horse to make the roster, and I think he will, from what I've been able to see and scrape up on social media. That leaves Paul Primetime Turner. I think he will also go to the practice squad. He was our darling last year. I think he's still solid enough, but the fact that when push comes to shove, it's going to be between these two, and one guy's 6'1" and 210 pounds. The other guy's 5, you know, really unfairly and relatively undersized here in Paul Turner. You'll just throw him on the practice squad. But Gibson and Turner on the practice squad, I like that. I like that availability in case someone goes down to injury. Going to the tight end spot, it's going to be Zach Ertz. It's another year. Is he going to break out? Is he not going to break out? We certainly going to have the opportunity. Burton and Selleck both will be holding down their spots. I was very happy to see Trey Burton get extended here, as I think, you know, obviously Selleck is one of the fan favorites, and I like him as much as the next guy, but if push comes to shove, looking at the future, I would much rather, you know, he's getting paid decent money for a backup tight end now. I would rather throw that money at Trey Burton than have both of them on the roster, maybe looking towards next year in 2018, because I think Burton has a lot of upside, and that's not just my Florida Gator bias. Which brings everyone else. Dornbos is going to be the long snapper, so Rick Lovato is going to be cut. Goodbye, and you know, nice trip here. And then I think Billy Brown, very intriguing, had just unbelievable production at Shepherd. He's like, you know, one of those wide receiver tight end hybrids. I think he's going to land on the practice squad to try to bulk up next year. So that is another member on the practice squad. And those will be our 3 tight ends, and then of course Dornbos. Looking at the offensive line, Jason Peters, the bodyguard at left tackle. He's still starting another year at left tackle. I did like the reports where he said he's willing to play guard in the future. I don't know if he's going to take, you know, that tackle to guard pay cut as well. That's something to keep an eye on, but he's definitely going to be starting at left tackle. I think Matt Tobin is going to be... Matt Tobin sucks. He's an absolute turnstile. He's gone. I think we're going to go with the upside here, which is Dylan Gordon, a guy that some people have actually compared to like Jason Peters. Both these guys started out as tight ends. And I do know Dylan Gordon from last year is a really popular player of the Philadelphia Eagles. I can almost guarantee do not want to throw in the practice squad because someone else will pick him up. His upside is that high. So I think he will be the depth here at left tackle. At left guard, it's going to be Barbre and Ciumalo. I think these are going to be the 2 guys. Bradbury's fairly underrated. I know his contract situation is a little murky. There's rumors that we threw him on the trade block, but I think he will be back. And Siamala has a whole bunch of upside as a guard and center potentially. At the center spot, we have Wisniewski and Kelsey, I believe, will be our 2 centers, even though Kelsey's probably the starter. It might not reflect it here in Madden, but Kelsey will be the starter. I think Andrews is as good as gone. I mean, he's been here forever, has never done anything. It feels like Josh Andrews has been on this team since Andy Reid was here. I think Arlovsky, I like this pick, and a lot of people are saying he's maybe one of the best UDFA signings. I think he's going to land himself on the practice squad just because he was injured and didn't really have enough time, kind of shot himself in the foot, pun intended, to try to make an impact, but I do believe he'll land on our practice squad. Right guard, Brandon Brooks and Warmack, both these guys, they're locks. I think Daryl Green here is going to be gone. Goodbye, buddy. And then finishing out the offensive line at the right tackle spot, it's going to be Lane Johnson and Big V himself. Taylor Hart converting from defensive tackle to right tackle. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking there. Maybe it's the fact that it looks like I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have 2 guys that play defense on the Eagles playing tackle for them on their roster when the season starts out. Maybe they're trying to do that. Like, oh man, maybe we're just fucking up how we're drafting players. But I think Lane Johnson and Vitae, Big V are going to round out the offensive line. Now on the defensive side of things, I think all 3 of these guys are going to make it here at left defensive end. Chris Long coming in as a veteran presence, rotational type guy. Derek Barnett, our first-round draft pick. As much as I hated the pick, I like the player. Derek Barnett looks pretty special. Just don't ever fucking mention Reggie White in his same name. People like it. As soon as you get there in that comparison, statistically, you can compare them. Talent-wise, not even the same hemisphere. And I like Steven Means from Buffalo. Not Khalil Mack. Maybe he can be your own Khalil Mack, but he's shown a little like rotational guy. He can come in, great effort, and really does stand out. I remember he stood out last year in the preseason. I think he is going to get the last spot over this guy. Marcus Smith, he is good as gone. Didn't show up. Pretty much wants to get cut. Goodbye, good riddance. Pretty much like the last stench on this team from the Chip Kelly era. Obviously, Brandon Graham and Vinny Curry are going to make the roster. I think Alex McAllister is going to spend, I'm pulling for him. Whole bunch of upside. He's still adding weight. I think he's going to go on practice squad for 1 more year and can look at having a nice 2018 and making this final roster. But I think Brandon Graham, Vinny Curry, Chris Long, Derek Barnett, and Steven Means will be our defensive ends. And the defensive tackle spot, it's Fletcher Cox. It's Timmy Jernigan. They're both making the roster. I saw a couple articles saying Bo Allen's going to get cut. He's going to start on the PUP. So he's, technically on the roster, but not technically counting towards our final 53. So that being said, Qualls and Vallejo are going to make it. Vallejo was a guy I predicted we should have signed last year in undrafted free agents when I did my mock draft, and that's how we got him. And he looked pretty good as a rotational, and Qualls was excellent value for the Philadelphia Eagles to get here, and really is going to kind of fill the void with Bo Allen. And maybe next year, this is where Bo Allen may lose his job, because I think Qualls could eventually supplant him as that, primary run stuffer type. But that's going to be your defensive tackles with Justin Hamilton here. Sorry, bud, you're gone. Goodbye. Thank you very much. Maybe practice squad, I guess, if you can't actually make that. Little linebacker core. I have Nigel Bradham here. He's going to make it. He was tremendous last year. Very underrated free agency signing. I think Najee Good. I think this is going to spend the end for Najee Good. I don't really want to. He's been decent on special teams. But I do believe that Nate Gary, we're going to slide Nate Gary to an outside linebacker role because of his coverage ability. So that is going to be the backup to Nigel Bradham. Steven Daniels is going to be gone. Goodbye, Steven Daniels. Even though I'm pretty sure 2 years ago I did mock him to the Eagles in the 7th round. But our middle linebackers is Jordan Hicks, one of the most underrated players in the NFL. He is fringe superstar status. And I think Joe Walker, who really played well last preseason. He had a bad injury towards ACL. I think he's going to have a really nice preseason once again. And he emerges as a top middle linebacker depth. And finish out the linebacking core is both these guys. Michael Kendricks, who again, kind of the Nelson Aguilar mold, probably is on the way out, but he cost too much money for us to just really cut him. So I think he's going to be on the roster again. And then Grugier Hill is a great special teamer, which is where he makes his money, and he will make this roster, rounding out our linebacking core. Jumping into the secondary, which is the position I don't want to talk about. Oh, it's bad. All right, so Patrick Robinson is going to be here. Sidney Jones is going to start in the PUP, so he's not going to count against the roster, but I hope to God he eventually makes a start. I have Jalen Mills being one of our starters. He's going to make it. Ron Brooks was actually not bad as a nickel last year until he got hurt. He was not great, but he wasn't bad. I think Rasul Douglas is going to make it. Thank you very much. I have Dwayne Gratz making it. He was decent with the Jags. I remember he started out with the Jags. I think he had like 2 or 3 picks his rookie year. So I think we'll go with Dwayne Gratz's experience and that kind of gives the outside out to Aaron Grimes. CJ Smith is another guy. Maybe both those guys can have a chance at making making the practice squad. Sorry, I wouldn't mind, as Grimes had a really good interception in the preseason against the Steelers, I think it was last year. I think he had 2 picks last year and still didn't make it. It's CJ Smith from North Dakota State with Carson Wentz. I think he's probably going to go to the practice squad as well. Looking at the safety spot, Rodney McLeod, Chris Maragos, both these guys are locked. Rodney had a great year last year, and Maragos is one of the best special teamers in the NFL. And at strong safety, I think all 3 of these guys are going to make it. Jenkins is, he's probably the best player in our secondary. Watkins is one of those, cover guys, can play a little bit of nickel. Kind of in the same mold as Malcolm. Not the same type of player, obviously skill-wise, but versatility, playing safety and corner, he can do both. And reports say Brooks has had a very, very good offseason. I think we will continue to have him on the roster. So that is our safety core. Special teamers, Sturgis, Donnie Jones, and as we mentioned before, John Dornbos as the long snapper. So for the practice squad, because it won't let me actually put guys there, I think CJ Smith, Randall Goforth, Alex McAllister, Tyler Orlowski, Billy Brown, Shelton Gibson, Paul Primetime Turner, and Byron Marshall, who's that running back wide receiver hybrid. I think that is going to be our practice squad. Plus guys that we add. Definitely looking at this base 53 though, definitely watch when roster cuts come out, because I definitely can see Philadelphia wanting to pick at some available corners. Pick from the scrap heap, see if we can find that diamond in the rough. So with that being said, guys, next up is going to be our record prediction. Alright, so here we go. This is how we're going to do it, just from the Play Now menu. We're going to talk about every week. So opening week, we have the Washington Redskins. Usually Washington tends to have our number, but I think there's such a shit show this year. Our strengths are kind of their weakness. Obviously, you got to worry about the aerial threat, because their strength is kind of our weakness. I think it's going to be a shootout, but I think opening up week 1, we're going to get the victory against Washington. And then in week number 2, we go to Kansas City, where we play Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this is going to be a loss. It's going to be a close game. Definitely going to be a close game. I think our defense is going to pose a lot of problems for the Chiefs. But I can just see some cheesy Tyreek Hill gimmicky play that our corners just aren't fast enough, aren't athletic enough to keep up with it. So that is 1-1. Going to week number 3, we're taking on the New York Giants. And come on, Eagles own the Giants. We sweep the Giants pretty much every damn year, and not this year is not going to be no different. So we beat the Giants week 3 to move to 2-1. Week 4, we take on the new LA Chargers, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Chargers. Their strengths are 100% the Philadelphia Eagles' weakness. I think defensively they match up kind of similarly, but the fact that they have an almost air raid offense, endless weapons at wide receiver, I think that's a bad matchup. Philly's having to travel all the way to California, so that is going to be a loss, sitting at 2-2. Week number 5, we take on the Eagle Killers, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, looking at talent-wise, I think Philly can beat the Cardinals, but I can't remember the last time Philly had a good game against Arizona. Seems like Larry Fitzgerald is an Eagle killer. I'm telling you right now, Eagle fans, go look, if you can find it, Larry Fitzgerald's stats against Philly in his career. It is absurd how good Larry Fitzgerald plays against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm just going to have to go with the odds in history and say the Cardinals win that game. So we're sitting at 2-3. At week number 6, we take on the Carolina Panthers, who I think are in for a little bit of a rough season again next year. I have Philly winning that one. I think we match up very well against the Carolina Panthers. Where their weaknesses, our weaknesses kind of line up, and then our strengths, I think we have a little bit better, more talent at the wide receiver spot. So there's a win there. Going to week number 7, we play the second game against the Washington Redskins, where I have us winning. I have us finally bucking the trend of Washington owning us, and we get 2 wins against the Washington Redskins here in week number 7 being the second. Week number 8, we take on probably the easiest game of the year, hopefully not a trap game. We take on the San Francisco 49ers, one of the worst rosters going into this year. We have to dominate this game, and I think we do, to get another win. Week number 9, we take on the Denver Broncos, and kind of like, the Cardinals, I think we match up pretty well against the Denver Broncos, but it's, you don't want to say you're going to win every game, and odds say this is going to be a tough matchup, and I'm pretty sure it's in Denver, so we're going to give Denver the win here, even though, much like the Arizona game, it could be a toss-up. There's plenty of games that the Eagles are closely matched, and it can go either way depending on momentum and injuries and stuff like that. I'm going to go with the Broncos beating the Eagles here in week number 9. In week number 10 is our first matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, and I have the Cowboys winning at home against the Philadelphia Eagles in week number 10. Oh, that pains me to say, but the Dallas is going to be strong once again, even though they do have some holes. So do we. Going to week number 11, we're taking on the Chicago Bears, which definitely, much like the 49ers game, has to be a win for Philly. ALSHON Jeffrey, hopefully he's still playing at this time, not injured, and has a big game against his former team, so that is a win. Week number 12, we take on the Seattle Seahawks, who kind of are, playing like the Cardinals, where, it seems like every time we play Seattle, we play terribly. We shoot ourselves in our foot. So I'm going to say the Seahawks beat us in week 12. In week 13, we finish out the NFC West by playing the Rams. I think we match up very good against the Rams. You get to see Goff versus Wentz. It's going to be an annoying storyline they're going to keep going on and on about. But I have us beating the Rams in week 13. In week 14, we take on the Giants again. We sweep the Giants. Another win. Week 15, we play the Oakland Raiders. I think this game's on Christmas Eve, which is going to be dope. That's going to be nice to watch my little baby. But that's going to be a tough, man. Raiders are going to, I think that's going to be a rough one for Philly. So I think Raiders are going to win that one. And then finishing out in week 16, we play the Dallas Cowboys at home. And I think that is going to be the game that we win. That is going to be an epic game because I think a lot of the games, the divisional games against, Giants, which I think we sweep, the Cowboys are going to matter because I think when I did this, I had a three-way tie for first place in the NFC East, 9-7 between the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants, with the Eagles having the #1 tiebreaker, being the head-to-head divisional record. And we picking up this win in week 16, that 9-7 record for the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC champions in the East. Let's friggin' go. All right, so lastly, we're going to do player predictions as well as stat predictions. So, you start with the big one. MVP for this upcoming season is going to be Carson Wentz, especially if we go 9-7 and get that NFC East title. It's going to be behind the arm of Carson Wentz. There's definitely some shouts on the defensive side of things for an MVP, but I do believe, obviously, quarterback. He's our quarterback. Wentz will get that MVP. For bust, I'm going with the cornerback, Jalen Mills, and I think it's going to be relative. Obviously, I think he's being pushed and hyped up as our corner one, our #1 corner. I don't think he's going to go live up to those expectations. I don't think he's going to be terrible. I think he's going to kind of be boom or bust like he was last week. Some weeks he looks great and we're doing that damn finger wag. Other weeks he will struggle, but I definitely think he'll be the bust relative to how much hype he's getting. And for sleeper, I'm going with Timmy Jernigan. I know he's entering a contract year, but I think because of everyone else on the line, he's going to be the beneficiary. He's not going to get the double teams. Fletcher Cox is going to get the double teams. Brandon Graham's going to get a lot of double teams. So I think a guy like Timmy Jernigan playing in a new scheme where he can just get after the quarterback, I think he's going to have quite the year. And, looking at the Eagles' contract situation, everyone's saying, we got to re-sign Alshon Jeffrey. Maybe we got to re-sign Torrey Smith. Timmy Jernigan, I think, is going to play so well, he's going to become a top priority for the Philadelphia Eagles to re-sign. Not just, where he's kind of looked at this year, he's like, oh, well, he's not Benny Logan, but he's all right. I think he's going to have a great year, and he is my sleeper. Now for big-time player predictions for their final stat lines. For Carson Wentz, I see around 4,100 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions to go along with about 175 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's going to be close to eclipsing the 30 touchdown mark. But more notably, he's going to be the first Philadelphia Eagles quarterback in history to throw for over 4,000 yards, and he makes the Pro Bowl. I don't know if he's going to be a Pro Bowl starter, probably an alternate, but Pro Bowl. Looking at the running back spot for LeGarrette Blount, I'm going to say about 750 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. He's going to be much more of a touchdown machine and a goal line threat. For Darren Sproles, I'm going to say about 1,000 total yards from scrimmage by way of rushing and receiving, and 4 total touchdowns. Looking at the wide receiver core, we got Mr. Alshon. Get the fuck out of here. We got Mr. ALSHON Jeffrey. I'm going to say about 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he will be a Pro Bowl alternate. We have Jordan Matthews. I'm going to say about 950 yards and 5 touchdowns. For Torrey Smith, I'm going to go 700 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then looking here at the tight end spot with Zach Ertz, who's going to be, I think, decent pickup in fantasy this year. 800 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he will be a Pro Bowl alternate. Looking at the defense, we're going to start at right defensive end. Mr. Brandon Graham, I'm going to say 9 sacks and Pro Bowl. I think, if he would have made and actually completed plays last year, I think he probably would have had 12, 13 sacks. I'm going to say 9. He had 5.5, I think 9 this year. Looking at Vinny Curry, I'm going to say about 5 sacks. I think there's going to be some heavy rotation going on here on this defensive line. At left defensive end, we got Chris Long here. I'm going to say about 3 sacks for him. A couple clutch ones. Definitely going to come out and say a couple clutch ones. And then finish it with our last superstar, Fletcher Cox. 10 sacks, first team Pro Bowl. I don't really want to make I did make Timmy Jernigan my sleeper. I'm going to say maybe 7 sacks. I really, you may say, oh my God, look, he's just fucking throwing sacks up like Walmart rollbacks. I firmly believe Philadelphia's going to have a top 3 front 7 this year. it is going to be very, very dominant. Look at the linebackers for Nigel Bradham. I'm going to say about 85 tackles and 3 sacks. For the middle linebacker, Jordan Hicks, 110 tackles, 3 interceptions. One of those he brings back for a pick 6 and 2 sacks, as he is a Pro Bowl alternate. Still not getting the respect I think he deserves. Jumping to the secondary here, I'm going to say Jalen Mills only gets 1 interception to his name. Like I said, I just don't think he's going to live up to the expectations. Rod McLeod is going to get an interception as well. He had 3 last year, so a little bit of a down year, but he's going to he's still going to have a good season. And then Malcolm Jenkins, I say he got 3 picks last year. I think he's going to get 3 picks this year. One of those brought back for a pick 6. And now finishing with the rookies. Let's talk about every rookie that made this roster and how they are going to perform. So first we start with Derek Barnett, our first round draft pick. I think he's going to get it between 6 and 8 sacks. So we'll take the middle of 7 total sacks, which is a lot of sacks on this defensive front. I think Philly's going to be top 5 in terms of total team sacks on the defensive side of the ball. For Sidney Jones, I think he will play near the back end of the season. I'm going to say at least 4 total games, and he will get 1 interception in those games. Then we have Rasul Douglas, who's an absolute ball hawk at West Virginia. I'm going to say he's going to get an interception. I want to go with 2 picks. My gut's saying 2, but looking at the broad horizon, I don't think Philly's going to be that elite of a defense, so we're just going to give him 1 interception. Look at the wide receiver spot. We have Mac Hollins, who I think is going to be really the only wide receiver that's a rookie to get some big-time playing. I think about 200 yards, somewhere around then. At the running back spot, we have Daniil Pumphrey. I think he's going to get about 150 yards from scrimmage, rotating, maybe blowout games. He can come in and close them out. We had Shelton Gibson, who we were talking about here. I believe he's going to land himself on the practice squad. We have Nate Gary, who should be, in my opinion, linebacking depth, but more so be valuable in special teams, getting about 5 tackles, and then finishing up with Elijah Qualls, who's going to be very important for us. I think he's going to get plenty of playing time on clear run-stopping downs. Give him about 10-15 total tackles. I don't think he's going to get anything in ways of sacks, but overall, we'll look back upon this as a pretty solid rookie draft class for the Philadelphia Eagles. So there you go, guys. That is my final predictions for the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagle fans, let me know if you agree or disagree with anything you saw in this kind of a long video. Probably could have split it up a little bit. But I'm hyped for this fucking season. Getting ready for all the preseason hype. As always, we're going to be doing our preseason things to watch. And we will do post-game grades. Yes, even preseason games matter here on Beast Mode TV in relation to my Philadelphia Eagles. But that does it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, subscribe if this is your first time stopping by and you enjoyed it. Smash the like button. And as well, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Till next time, C4 saying peace out.